Hello there. Today's Pilates sequence focuses on a lot of stabilizing exercises and quite a lot of thoracic rotation and mobility. So the only thing that I'll be using is actually the floor space, so make sure you've got plenty of room around you, and I'm also going to be utilizing the chair for some exercises. You don't have to use the chair, so if you don't have one with a widely accessible kind of seat, then feel free to do it without the chair at all. So starting off, we're just going to mobilize the ankles a little. So I'd like to do that coming up onto the seat here. So sitting up nice and tall, and then I take my ankle in one hand and I'm going to just be rocking the ankle in little circles here, so mobilizing as much as possible. And I'm going to get these dogs out of here because I can only sense that it's going to get worse. Wait, outside, come on, outside, good girls. Outside, Lily, good girl. So sitting up nice and tall over the top of your sit bones and mobilizing the ankle in nice big circles here. And then moving around in the opposite direction. Then from here, I splay out my toes and I'm just going to get a little bit more movement through the ankle here, so my fingers are woven in between my toes, and I really like this just to get the foot moving as nicely as possible. There are so many joints in there that we like to mobilize before we start, and then toes right up towards knee and then right down towards the other way. So you're really pointing the foot and then flexing all the way back up the other way. Same on the other side, moving the foot in nice big circles here and then going in the opposite direction. And then fingertips going in between toes, moving around in one nice big circle one way, and then moving around in circles through the other way. So nice big circles through the ankle joint there, nice proud chest, and then toes go all the way up towards the knee, and then flex the ankle all the way through the other way. So just stretching through the muscles at the top of the foot and then going right into plantar flexion all the way through the other way. So dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Okay, starting off, so I'm going to move the chair out of the way slightly here, just because it's not going to be needed for the first few exercises. So starting off, chair right off to the side, and then I'm going to come down all the way to the floor, and I'm going to start off just with a little bit of stretching through the ankles. So heels plant one right down towards the floor. My fingertips are spread out just so I'm evenly load bearing through the upper body. So stretching through those ankles and coming right up onto the toes of the alternating feet. So full range of motion through the ankles, and then only when you're ready, stretching through the upper body and try and plant those heels as low down towards the ground as possible. From here, separate the feet a little wider and coming all the way up to a tall standing position. From here, I'm going to keep my feet just wider than hip width apart, and starting off, I'm going to go down into a squat with a little reach forward. I'm going to start quite small with this movement because I don't want to overdo it. I just want to bring a little bit of blood flow towards the glutes, and I'm making sure that I'm keeping my whole foot in contact with the ground. So big toe, little toe, and heel are all really in contact with that ground as I come down and come back up, rather than rolling onto the outside of the foot. So really good connection to get that VMO firing, keeping those big toes down to make sure that I've got that really good arch stability through my ankle. So sitting right back into a squat position and coming up tall. Now, if you are up for a little bit more of a challenge and you want to get a little bit more VMO activation, bring the feet ever so slightly closer together, and then I'm going to come right up onto the toes. So you'll see I sink down as I reach my arms forward, and then I engage through my glutes, and I come up onto my toes as I extend. So squat down and then lift up onto the toes, squeezing the whole posterior chain. Now this is tough to do, especially to come up onto all 10 toes. So you can completely omit the little calf raise if you'd like to. Just make sure that you don't rock back onto your heels as you sink down. So you should feel your whole body starting to warm up here. Squatting down and coming all the way back up tall. Squatting down and coming up tall. We'll just go for 3 more here. And 2, and one last one here. Okay, from here, coming all the way a little further backwards because you'll need all the space out in front of you. Squatting down and then reach your arms all the way out in front of you into a plank position. So nice long spine here, holding that plank position on your toes. Now from here, I'm going to bring one knee in towards the same wrist, and then I extend that leg up towards the ceiling. So see here, my shoulders come forwards and then my shoulders press back behind me as I bring my head to align with my elbows. So knee comes right in underneath me, and then I push that leg right back up towards the ceiling. Knee comes in underneath, and then push that leg right up towards the ceiling. We're only going to do 3 more here. You can absolutely stop if it becomes uncomfortable at any time. Knee draws in underneath, leg up to ceiling, and let's just do 1 more. Whew. And then rest there for a second, rolling out through the wrists. So really good to keep that nice and mobile through the wrists so that you're not loading up too heavily on them. Then as soon as you're ready, coming back into that same position. So think about really good weight bearing through your palms. Coming back into a plank position. This time I'm going to lift up the right leg, bring the knee in towards the same wrist, and then extend that leg up towards the ceiling. Now what you're looking out for is not opening up through that hip joint. So try and keep your sacrum nice and level, not tilting up to the side as you bring that leg up into extension and bring your chest back towards your thighs. Knee comes in, and then align your head with your elbows as the leg extends back behind you. Knee comes in and extends straight back out. Knee comes in, extend that leg back behind, thinking about weight bearing really well between palms and across your left foot. And one last one here, extend that leg back and rest down. Whew. Roll out through those wrists. I'm just going to move my phone a little so I can make sure that I'm in the frame. And now we're going to move into the next little series here. So we're going to bring our chair back into play. So bringing that right over. Now this is one of those movements that you absolutely can do without the chair. So right here, I'm going to bring my elbows onto the chair, making sure that I'm waking up between those little muscles between the shoulder blades. So starting off, my knees are resting on the ground, and I'm going to lower my shoulder blades. So I'm going to slightly collapse between the shoulder blades and then lift up between shoulder blades. So a little sink down and then lift back up strong. And a little lower down between shoulder blades and lift up strong. So you can see here that I'm just opening up through collarbones and then I'm lifting up really strong. So lower down and lift up strong. After a few, you should really focus on your head coming to align with that movement. So making sure that your head is not dropping. And then you should be about warm now between those little muscles. So we're going to now bring in the next little step. So here, I bring my knees in just a little so I can feel my core engage. I make sure that my forearms are nicely planted on that chair, and I'm going to engage through the core and lift up into a plank, and then lightly tap the knees to the ground. So you may need to change your position a little bit here, or you might like to hold on to the back of the chair if you've got the option of doing that. But you should absolutely feel your tummy switching on here. So a little lower down and then lift the knees off the floor. Little lower down and lift. Core should really be engaged here. Little lower down, little lift. Little lower down, little lift. Little lower down, little lift. So really switching on through that core, making sure that you're scooping through the tailbone and only just allowing those knees to touch the ground, a brief little tap, and lift back up. Little lower down and lift back up. See if you can go for 6 more. So really getting those lower abdominals to fire here. It's almost as if you're doing a little carriage tuck on the reformer. And 4, little lift and plank. 3, and 2, and one last one here. And lift up, hold, and then push your chest back towards your thighs. That should feel like a really nice stretch through the upper body. Or as an alternative, you can bring your hands to the top of the chair and lower down just so you get a really lovely extension through the upper body, and you can do a tiny little twist from side to side just so you can really stretch through those shoulder stabilizers there. Oh, that should have everything really nice and warm through the abdominals. So now from here we're going to bring our feet up on top of the seat. Now, make sure I'm still in the frame, lying all the way down on your back here. So make sure with the setup here that your feet are on top of the seat. I like to have my heels comfortably on there. If your ankles are quite mobile, you can have your whole flat foot on top of the seat, but that might be a little uncomfortable. So heels as a bare minimum on top of the seat and knees directly over the top of the pelvis to start off with. Now from here, I bring my hands down by my sides. I'm not wildly pressing into the ground. I'm just lightly resting my arms here. Then from here, I'm starting off with a little bit of a scoop and then arch through the other way. So just mobilizing through that lumbo-pelvic region. Then as soon as you are ready, we're going to scoop the tailbone, lift the hips all the way up towards the ceiling, making sure the neck is long, so not compressing through the upper thoracic spine, and then lower back down. And probably make sure that you're on a good spot where your chair is not going to shift across the room. If you're really struggling with this, you could instead, actually you could use a couch instead, or you could just use no chair at all, or push it up against the wall. Get creative. But we're going to continue with that lift and lower, making sure that you're evenly load bearing through that heel, trying not to roll onto the outside. We're going to do one more and lift up and hold. Now holding at the ceiling, we're going to lower a tiny little bit and then lift straight back up high. Lower down a tiny little bit and lift straight back up high. Oh my gosh, this is really hard with this high chair. So we're going to do 3 more here. If you're feeling your hamstrings, wiggle a little bit closer towards your seat. However, if you're feeling your glutes, that's good. And one last one, and then lower back down. I'm just going to come a little closer to my chair because I feel like it's drifted away ever so slightly. So bring your chair or readjust it as you need to, just to make sure that those glutes are the main muscle that's firing. Now from here, I'm going to set myself back up in a nice position for a glute bridge. We're going into single legs now. So I'm going to bring my left leg up, just lift it up off the chair, and then my arms are along beside me. Pelvis is nice and level, and my pelvis pushes away from my rib cage. I exhale, lift up towards the ceiling and hold this position here. Now my left leg is long and extended. I'm going to lower my left leg down and lift all the way back up high. So single leg lift and lower, making sure that that right hip is really nice and stable. And if your hamstring's cramping, position your foot a little closer towards you so that you can better engage through the glute rather than the hamstring. So lifting and lowering through that long left leg. Then we're going to lift up and hold towards the ceiling and move in tiny little circles. So tracing like a little anti-clockwise circle on the ceiling while maintaining the stability of the hips. And then we change directions and go in the other way. So core really engaged, hips are nice and level, and not forgetting to breathe. Nice long controlled breaths. And then we are going to hold that leg up towards the ceiling, little tiny lower through the hips, and lift back up. So it's a little quarter movement, really focusing on that right glute, squeezing and working hard for 3 and 2 and one last one, and lower all the way back down. Oh my goodness. And stretch through that hamstring. Oh my gosh, hamstring is so tight. So just stretch through that right side. Give it a little bit of attention for a moment. And then as soon as you are ready, we'll relax that leg back down. Bring the chair a little closer again if you need to, if it's slipped. And then we're going to go left leg down this time, and the right leg's going to be the moving leg. So right leg up towards the ceiling, we lift up and hold. Now this right leg lowers down, and we lift all the way back up high. Right leg lowers down and lift all the way back up high. Nice controlled movements, nice long lower, and lift all the way back up towards the ceiling. Reposition as you need to in case you feel like your hamstring's going to cramp. So long lower and lift up towards the ceiling. Nice controlled movements here. We'll go for 3 and lift. You can probably see my chair slowly slipping away. So readjust your chair as well if you need to. Tiny little circles up on the ceiling. So I go one direction first, and then I'm going to change directions. Tiny little circles with that leg. 2, 1. Then keep going. Stay lifted in that position. My chair just keeps slipping on this carpet. Now we do little lower, little lift. So little pulses through that left leg now. So I'm just lowering the hips a quarter and lifting all the way back up. Little lower, little lift for 3 and 2 and 1, ooh, and lower all the way back down, and then stretch out through that left side. So it should be hamstring and glute that we're working there. Just give them a little bit of attention. Oh my goodness, it's hard on a higher chair compared to the reformer. So flex and point the foot as well a little. It gives a little bit more of a neural stretch to that hamstring there. Good. From here, I'm just going to check what our program next. So now we're going to go into the side kick variation. So I'm going to move my chair completely out of the road now, because that will only be an option for some of the exercises, but I haven't actually specifically programmed it for any. So now from here, I'm going to set myself up in a side position here. So I'm going to be on my hand to stabilize here. It shouldn't actually affect the shoulder too badly because you can really fan out your fingertips, and you're also going to be on your knee rather than on your toes of your bottom leg, so it's a little easier. This is a whole series though, so pace yourself through it. Remember that you can take any time to rest, and we're going to be repeating the whole series on the other side. So starting off with, I'm going to be evenly lining up my left hand with my left knee. My right leg is long and straight here. My right hand stays on my right hip, and just try and stack your pelvis. So make sure that one hip is stacked on top of the other. My chest is nice and proud, and I lift my right leg off the ground and tap the big toe back down. Not a huge movement here. I'm just really engaging through my obliques, keeping my chest nice and proud, and lifting and lowering that right leg. Eyes looking straight ahead. Now you should start to feel that little glute underneath firing a little bit here. Little lift and lower. Now from here we're going to lift up and hold. Holding that leg nice and long and straight, and I'm going to kick my heel back towards my glute and then extend that leg out long and straight, really engaging through the core. So bend and extend through that elevated leg. Bend and extend. Curl the heel back towards your bottom and then extend away. So I'm keeping my foot flexed as I curl in and point as I extend away. Curl and extend. Don't worry too much about the ankle motion though. We're just trying to get those hamstrings moving really nicely. Bend and extend for 3 and 2 and one last one here. Fantastic. Rest that foot back down towards the ground. Give that glute a little massage for a moment if you need. Then from here, we're going to go into a side plank motion. So coming down, I bring my elbow all the way down to the floor. You can stay in this position here with your bottom knee on the floor and the top leg long and extended. Starting off in this position here, top arm reaches up towards the ceiling and I reach all the way underneath my armpit, and then I extend that arm all the way up towards the ceiling. Reaching all the way underneath the armpit and then return up to the ceiling. So you can stay with this movement first of all if you'd prefer to focus on that spinal rotation. However, for more of a challenge, bottom leg extends and reach the arm underneath the body and return all the way back up towards the ceiling. Reaching all the way underneath the body and return to the ceiling. We've got 3 and return to the ceiling, and 2 and return to the ceiling. And one last one here, reaching under and return to the ceiling. Now allow that hip to rest down onto the floor. Staying in that same position on that elbow. Remember, you can pause the video and give the shoulder a rest if you need to. But now from here, this is where we move into a little bit more of a complex movement. Align the feet here. So you want to do your best to keep those feet quite well connected. We start off by reaching right overhead. So I'm going to reach right overhead with my right arm. Then I'm going to bring my toes up high, staying lifted out of that left shoulder. Right fingertips reach towards the toes. Then I lower those legs down and I reach right overhead. Now again, I'm going to rock back slightly so you can see I'm leaning backwards just a little here. Legs lift up and I'm not collapsing into that shoulder. I'm staying lifted, reaching for my toes. And then I lower those legs back down and reach overhead. Little regression here if you need it. Bring the knees in towards your chest as you reach towards your toes. And then reach overhead as those legs lengthen away from you. So scoop, lift up, squeeze through the abs, curling in. So it's a little side pike here. Reverse pike on the side. And then scoop and curl. We're going to do one more here. It's hard, it looks harder than it really is. It's absolutely doable. Squeeze and lift those legs and then resting there. And just rest that arm down for a second before we go and do the same thing on the other side. So now flipping and rotating. So I'm going to bring my right hand down to the ground. Left leg is long and extended now, and I'm kneeling on that right leg. From here, I'm going to hold onto my hip with my left hand, and I'm going to lift and lower that left leg, feeling a little bit of a connection with the glute med on that right side, and making sure that I'm really nicely load bearing through my hand on my right side. Oh my gosh, now that I've closed those dogs out, it's getting very hot in here. Little lift and lower through that long left leg, Then from here, I'm going to lift up and hold. We bend into that right side, left side, and extend all the way back out. And bend into that knee and extend. Now make sure that you're really curling that leg in. So keeping that knee aligned with the thigh, not allowing that knee to come forwards. If we let that knee come forwards, it makes it so much easier. So curl that heel in and then extend back out straight. We go for 3 and extend, and 2 and extend, and 1 last one. Then lower that hip down. From here, I bring my elbow to the ground. We're going to do the same as the other side. So knees stack, hips stack, shoulders stack. Then I lift up my bottom hip off the ground and my bottom knee is bent beneath me, but my thighs are aligned. From here, I'm going to reach my left arm to the ceiling and I scoop that arm all the way underneath my body and then return that arm back up towards the ceiling. Scoop the arm underneath the body and return back up towards the ceiling. So I'm trying to facilitate a lovely rotation through my spine here, and my ribs are rotating around my spine. So twist and rotate, but make sure that you're lifting out of this shoulder that you're balancing on. Reach and rotate underneath the body and return back up towards the ceiling. We're going to do 2 more and then progress it, or you can progress it now, reaching underneath the body and then return back up. So you can keep that bottom leg in a long extended position if you're up to it. However, if the foot is uncomfortable being in that lifted position, you can keep that bottom knee bent and it makes it a lot easier to stabilize. Reaching underneath you and return to the ceiling. And we're going to do 1 more, reaching all the way underneath and return to the ceiling, then lower that hip down. Starting off here, align those feet together. I'm going to reach overhead on my left arm, so my left arm reaches overhead. Then, gently pressing through the right elbow, I'm going to rock back on my hips slightly and then bring my feet up high and reach towards my toes, looking towards my toes, not jutting my head, just looking and reaching. Extend back over, allow those legs to slowly come back down, and then lightly reaching up towards toes, lifting out of that right shoulder. Then extend those legs back down, reaching the arm long and straight away from you, lengthen through the rib cage. And then exhale, reach up, fingertips reaching towards toes. Slowly allow those legs to extend, twist and rotate. Gently leaning back on the hip joint, reach the arms up, nice and high. Then lower back down. I love this exercise. And then second last one, we reach up towards the toes. So maintaining that nice long spine. And then we're going to extend overhead. And let's do 1 last one here. Gently rocking back on the hip, reaching up towards toes, lengthen through the spine. And then slowly relax there. Oh, well done. From here, we're going to come into a kneeling position. So up nice and tall. Now, we have done this exercise before, and this is a real toughie, so I've come up with a slight variation that may make it easier. I don't know if you'll agree with that, but we're starting off with the arms reaching out in front. Kneeling position, head, shoulders, and hips and knees should stay fairly well aligned here. Fingertips are going to be reaching out in front, and I'm going to row and rotate, looking over one elbow, then return forwards. Row and rotate, looking over the other elbow, then return back up. The whole top part of the foot is going to stay flat on the mat, and I feel my hamstrings as well as my quads really firing here. So thinking about that whole quad, how it fires as a unit. It's right from the hip joint all the way down towards the knee joint. Hip flexors are working here as well as the abdominals. So if you even want to make it a little bit lighter, you can just start with rotation through the upper body. But I really like to peel back so that I feel those obliques pairing up with hip flexors, with quads, working as an entire unit. Row and rotate. Pull that elbow backwards, but keep the palm aligned with the shoulder, so it's shoulder height, so that you feel that posterior deltoid really working with that little horizontal adduction, I think it is, yeah, of the shoulder. Row and rotate. We've got 1 more each side. Row and rotate. And last one on the left here. Row and rotate. Well done. Fantastic. Okay, from here we're going to finish with a series lying down on the back. So we've got the quads targeted, hammies are all done, shoulders have worked a little here. And now we're going to come all the way down onto the floor. So lying completely on your back, make sure that you've got some room out in front of you. And then we're going to set up in a strong tabletop position. So inhale to prepare. Exhale, bringing up one leg followed by the other, tabletop position. Then from here, legs are going to lengthen up towards the ceiling. And you might be a little bit shaky from your hamstring exercise before. Then I'm going to hold on to one leg. So you can see here on my left leg here, I've got my left hand around the calf and the right arm wraps around the inside of the hamstring here. Then I'm going to lift up. Now this lift up here is optional, so you do not have to lift all the way up, but if you are, make sure that the back of your neck is long. So you don't want to be jutting your chin forwards. Keep that upper body lifted over the top of the ribs here. Then from here, my right leg lowers down and I'm going to change sides. So pulling one leg in, then lowers down. Alternate the legs here. So I do 2 little pulses of an exhale and inhale as my legs switch. Inhale through the middle. Inhale through the middle. So you can see here I'm getting that lovely long mobility through the hips while I'm firing through those abdominals. Just take your time with this one, and if you prefer, you can rest your head all the way back down. But you should absolutely be firing through the abdominals, so focus on it being a nice lengthening movement here. We've got 4, switch, and 3, and 2, and 1. Beautiful. From here, we're now moving into one of the tougher exercises. An option is to keep your head on the floor and you scoop your knees in towards your chest, reaching for your ankles. And then inhale, out and around, scoop the arms back in and pull yourself into a little ball. So this is the general gist of the movement. Knees tuck in towards chest, reaching towards your little bony protuberance on the outside of the ankle. Then you reach legs out straight, reaching arms overhead, circle the arms around, and then reach back towards the ankle. Now the progression here, reaching up into this position here towards the ankles. Palms are spread, so you're not pulling yourself up on your legs, but you are engaging through the core. Then from here, legs extend, head rests down. Circle the arms around, roll up, reach towards ankles. Overhead, head rests back down. Exhale, sweep the arms around and find the ankles again. Reaching overhead, extend the legs out straight. Swim the arms around and reach towards your ankles. So you can see here I'm really rolling up through the upper body. Reaching towards ankles. Slowly reach overhead. Swim the arms around. Palms reach overhead. Circle the arms around, reaching towards ankles. We're going to do 2 more. You should be really feeling your abdominals firing here. Reaching overhead, circle the arms around, reach to the ankles. Circle the arms overhead and lower back down. Rocking those knees from side to side. And I'm going to finish you off with this cobra variation. So just lightly moving those ribs. Should feel nice and toasty through the abdominals here. Okay, final exercise. So you can come onto a flat position on your tummy. So lowering yourself all the way down. Now for a nice little variation here, I bring my elbows just behind the line of my shoulders, palms spread out here, tops of the feet flat on the ground, and then a little lift up, so push the pubic bone into the ground and lightly push through the palms, but most of all you'll be engaging through your back to lift up here, head aligns with spine, and then lower back down. Little progression here is lifting up through the spine, palms hover on the ground, and then reach the arms back behind you, chest is open and proud, bend at the elbows again, and lower the chest back down. Head lifts away from mat, lift palms away from ground. Keep the shoulder tip spiraling backwards, so do not let the tip of the shoulder gently rotate forwards. Exhale, push pubic bone into the ground, open up through the chest, reach the arms back behind you, thumbs spiral up towards ceiling. Then bring the hands back in and lower your chest back down. We've got 2 more. Lifting up through the chest, reach those arms all the way back behind you, and you might like to engage through the glutes a little as well. Arms come back in and lower down. And very last one here, pubic bone into the ground. Exhale, lift up, squeeze those ribs down towards your pelvis. Reach those arms back behind you. Bring the arms all the way back in and lower down. And you are all done. That should have targeted a little bit of everything. Feel free to finish off with any usual stretches that you like, whether it's rotating through the spine or doing a little bit of thoracic extension over your soft blue ball or over a towel. That should work really well. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.